This is Mitch Perry, and you are listening to the Thunder Underground.
Welcome to episode 261 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here as always. And this week we've got a good one because we've got Mitch Perry joining us. We recorded this two and a half weeks ago. Did it over Skype and talked to Mitch about some cool stuff, so we're going to get into that here in a minute. But before we do, we need to let you know that we're sponsored by MedFarm and DEB Concerts. MedFarm, a dispensary located right here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, at 24683 East Highway 51. Right now, during all the stuff that's going on with social distancing, you get on their Facebook page and you can find their phone number and text them. And when you text them, you can text your order straight to them, then just drive up, go through their drive-thru, or pull in the parking lot, let them know you're there, and they'll bring it right out to you. I believe you can also still go in the store. They have a huge selection, so get in there and check them out, or get on leafly.com to check them out, the selection. Find them on Facebook at MedFarm PHARM. They're always running specials. One of the specials that's always running is if you let them know you heard about them here, mention Thunder Underground, they'll give you 10% off your first order. You can also follow them on Instagram at MedFarmOK, and their Facebook page is medfarmok.com. And on top of all that, their slogan's Cannabis with a Cause, because 30% of their proceeds is going to help build no-kill animal shelters, which is very cool, and they're well on their way to the first one. So we'll let you know as soon as that's up and going. Like we usually say, there's dispensaries around every corner, but most of those, a third of their profits aren't going to build no-kill animal shelters. So there's your reason to drive to this one. All right, DEB Concerts. As you all know, concerts are at a standstill, but we've got some stuff lined up this summer currently. It's still on the schedule, and we'll let you know if that stuff changes. But as of now, June 26th, Texas Hippie Coalition will be at the Ideal Ballroom with Poster Child and Sweatin' Bullets. Lynn Hernandez of KMOD will be hosting that. Then in July on the 11th, the New Metal Revival Tour will be coming to the Ideal Ballroom, which features Saliva, Flaw, Edema, and Powerman 5000. And then July 13th, at the BOK Center, Poison will be headlining a show that will also feature Tom Kiefer of Cinderella and Sebastian Bach, of course, formerly of Skid Row, which that's a pretty badass lineup, and glad that DB got that one booked because, well, we've been talking about it for over a year since they booked that Snoop Dogg one. Can't wait till they book an arena rock show, right? You ain't going to say anything?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay.
I was just going to see how long it took you before you're like, what the fuck?
I was thinking that, but I'm like,
I'm just, quarantine stir crazy. Thought I'd fuck with you.
Okay. I thought you're like, I just don't even want to talk this episode. Fuck him.
Fuck it.
Yeah. But debconcerts.com is where you can find all your info on ticket sales for all three of those shows. Hit them up. Huge thank you to DB Concerts for their continued support, and we'll, of course, let you know anytime new info comes on those shows or any future shows. All right, before we get into Mitch Perry, let's play some music.
Let's do it.
Torpedo Head is a name that you have undoubtedly heard us mention many times throughout the past 2 or 3 years, if you've listened to us at all. This band out of Germany is a three-piece called, would you call it, I think they use that term punk and roll that our friends in Slumlord Radio use as well.
I can see that.
I think I've seen that on their descriptions as well. It's great, kind of somewhere between punk and melodic hard rock. Just a great sound, a great style. And on top of all that, the vocalist and guitarist Space Brain will be on this podcast here in just a few days. The interview's been recorded. It was actually recorded the same day we recorded this Mitch Perry interview. And that'll be coming up later this week. So be on the lookout for that. But before then, this is their new single that just came out about a month ago. It's called Heartbleed. Heartbleed from Torpedo Head out of Germany. Brand new song. Probably won't ramble on here too long because we're going to be talking about him here on the next episode.
Right. But I mean, if you like shit like Wild Hearts, Michael Monroe,
Backyard Babies,
even a little bit like Black Star Riders.
Yeah, Social Distortion at times.
Yeah, Thin Lizzy-ish here and there.
There you go.
I mean, you can already know where it's going, so check everything out that these guys have put out.
Yeah. They've got a few albums out, 3 full-length albums, actually, and then some other singles, and as you'll hear in our interview coming up this week, more stuff hopefully coming soon. So get on Facebook and follow Torpedo Head. Check them out. Tell them we sent you. Before we get into the Mitch Perry thing, I also want to let you know that for the past several weeks, I guess it's been, a month? I think we've done 4 now, 4 or 5. Losing track, like everybody is, of the days here.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central on Facebook, we go live and just talk about whatever. Whatever this, like the one last week, we talked about the Florida Frank episode. This week, we'll probably be talking about the Mitch Perry episode.
Yes.
It's whatever's current, whatever we've recorded recently, episodes, interviews coming up, music that's come out. What else? Just random topics.
Random stuff. I mean, yes, shows are at a standstill and no one really knows what the fuck is going on. But at least we can kind of take solace in the fact that we all have our catalogs and catalogs of music that we love. We always figure out something to talk about, excuse me. And it, at least for now, every Friday, some new stuff is coming out.
Yeah.
And there's always some of that stuff to talk about. There's a lot of bands doing live streams, live Q&As, live performances. And we're kind of covering that, all the ones that we catch. Our amazing viewers that are watching are throwing out subjects, asking us questions. We're on there, chilling, having some beers with a Thunder Underground koozie that we will send you for free if you send us like $20. So, I mean, it's just a fun time. So, check us out. We would love to have you.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Central this Thursday night. And all the other ones are old there, on there.
Yeah,
Past ones if you're bored and want to hear us ramble. Some more outside of this podcast. But yeah, so Mitch Perry. This guy has played with a plethora.
Well, really, who hasn't he played with?
Right. Shadows Fall.
Well, true.
But he probably could have took over for John because this guy's so versatile.
He's an amazing player.
Even though he's not a thrash metal player.
Well, and my apologies to my detriment. We did this a couple weeks ago, and it's not fresh in my mind.
Oh,
but, we know that he's done Lita Ford. He's played with Cher, am I right?
Yeah. He took over for Randy Rhoads and Quiet Riot.
That's right.
Talking 40 years ago now. He took over for Yngwie Malmsteen and Steeler.
Yes.
He was in the Macaulay Schenker group. Speaking of, we had on...
Yes, Robin Macaulay a few episodes back.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah. And, he was in a band with Michael Schenker, and he was doing leads, so that's what this guy is, and he played with, more recent times, he played with Edgar Winter for most of the early 2000s, I think, and then he's played with Asia, which he talks about in this podcast for a few years, and on and on. We saw him with, you mentioned Lita Ford.
Yeah.
He was touring with her whenever she was on that Def Leppard Poison tour. We got that in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I mean, the guy can do anything, and this is a great conversation.
Yeah. The band has a new album, Music Box, which he talks about in this interview, which is supposed to have been out here early April, and it's caught, I think with all the crap going on and stuff closing down, kind of got behind on, that's what a lot of bands have happened. You heard on our last week's episode, Hatebreed's album was supposed to come out in May, and now it definitely pushed back until shit gets going. So I think that's kind of what happened with Music Box, but as of when we're recording this, a few days before this is coming out, it's still not available online from what I can see. The first single, Believe, has been out a bit, and they just put out the second single, Wasted Time, recently. So you can at least get on and check those out. 2 ballads. This album also features some rock songs. It's a great album. We checked it out before we talked to him, so I can't stress that enough that, even if you're not familiar with the Mitch Perry group, get yourself familiar.
Right.
So let's just get into this and quit rambling about it. Here's Mitch Perry.
How is it in Tulsa these days? You on the same enforced lockdown?
Yeah, I mean we're on the shelter-in-place thing, and everything's on lockdown till the 30th right now.
Cool.
I think it's kind of like most places are beginning to get. I think
just a lot of Netflix and trying not to drink so much.
Why would you stop drinking? This is a time to practice.
Good question. As I take a drink of my beer, sir. Nice point.
All right. Nice to know what kind of conversation we're going to have now.
Right.
With everything that is going on, outside of the obvious thing, which is not being able to play live, like how has this affected you professionally?
I mean, how hasn't it?
Yeah.
Everything we do is stopped. I mean, we can't tour. We can't even go and record together right now. I mean, you know, one of my big things, I love, you know, one of the things we did on this record, we recorded it live, you know, and I sit here and go, this is the only way to do it. Now it's like, there is no way to do that now. We've got to sit here and just figure out how to do what we can.
Yeah,
it's kind of nuts.
You know, right off the bat, that brings up a good point. You know, national crisis or not, doing it together live in the studio, or just at least being there, is so much better than you know emailing back and forth. I've always thought.
Oh, I feel the same way. I mean, you know, like I said, it's different situations call for different, you know, scenarios, and whereas before I'd go, you know, there's no point in recording tracks and sending them from one place to the next. The whole magic is the combination of musicians playing together. Now, I still stand by that, but we can't do that right now. So I'm very thankful that we can do, you know, the alternatives, but
Yeah.
I still don't believe that's the way to make optimum music. Having said that, with the enforced lockdown, there's a lot of really creative, great stuff that I see a lot of people doing, you know, in the confines of their own homes. So, you know, creativity will find a way to come out no matter, you know, what the circumstances.
When you say you guys recorded this live, did you record like the entire band live, or was it just like each instrument was a one-take type deal, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the entire band playing live. Now, do I mean it's a live album? Absolutely not. What I mean is instead of going in and setting up the drums and recording the drums and not really worrying about the other instruments, just worrying about getting a good drum track so we can add on top of that, we didn't do that. We rehearsed the songs so they sounded right live and played them the way we would have played them live. So the guitar, the basic guitar that you hear on the track is what was playing with the drums at the time we recorded. Now, did I overdub some extra guitars? Obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff overdubbed onto it. But that original basic track is drums and bass and rhythm guitar and keyboard part played at the same time and recorded at the same time, and we add to that, not replace any of it.
You guys a couple weeks ago released the single Believe, and lyrically that kind of hits at the right moment to be released. Was that written very recently, or was it just the timing was right?
No, well, the song is pretty much, it's not really written about coronavirus, but Believe is a universal feeling, and the song was written to be that anyone could insert their personal situation into it and hear the chorus and go, man, this song was for me. Having said that, sitting in the house on the first day of lockdown, My wife and I are sitting here reflecting on how appropriate the words and belief are for the situation we're all going through. So we got a hold of our videographer. We knew that he had filmed the song when we did the shoot for the EPK. So we just put the video together, or he did, and we put the song out because we just thought it was so, right for right now. And we wanted to use it to give people hope because that's basically what the song's for.
The full album, Music Box, I had seen in some press that it was coming out on April 6th, and I guess that's changed, right? It got pushed back?
Yeah, well, it's not that it's pushed back. It's just that, obviously the pressing plant closed down the day after we sent all the stuff to them. So we're on hold to get any kind of hard copies, and we're sitting in here. All the stuff has been submitted. I believe the single is up on iTunes, but the rest of the album should be up, and for some reason it's not. We're expecting it will be finalized within the next 10 days.
Okay.
But at that point, every track should be available, and to all you listeners, please definitely go out and get it, because this is an album full of songs. It's not just one track and a bunch of filler. And when we made the record, that was one of the specific intents, was to make a record that people wanted to listen to from top to bottom, not just, pick their favorite song and ignore the rest.
Well, how would you describe the varying sound of these songs, maybe to somebody who hasn't heard it yet?
Okay, I've come up with a phrase. I go, it's new classic rock. They're songs I would expect to hear on any classic rock station, except you got to remember, classic rock stations only play you the best of what came from the 70s. They only play, or not the best, but the most popular.
Yeah.
So, you obviously you're not going to have the comfort factor of having known the song for 30 years, but these songs stand up next to anything that goes on classic rock stations. So I call it new classic rock. If you like the stuff you hear on classic rock stations, you're going to love this album. It's going to put a huge smile on your face.
As far as that goes, when you're writing, how do you go about writing a song that sounds classic rock but doesn't sound dated like you guys have managed to do with these songs?
Well, that's a great question. You absolutely don't. You can't decide I'm going to write something, and to me, it comes out. This is not music I decided to do because I think this is what we should be doing. It's what I live. It's what I breathe. It's how I play. If anything, I decided not to decide on what to do and just let my natural instincts go and record what I wanted to record, because truthfully, there's no format that we have to fight to fit inside. So this is pretty much music the way I like to hear it, and hopefully the listeners will agree.
Well, with all your connections throughout the years, when you put the Mitch Perry group together, how did that process go? And finding all those people to play with.
Well, as you know from looking at the list of players, we have quite a lineup of great names, and that's not the only reason I picked them. Nobody is on the album because of who they played with or who they are. They're on the album because of how they play and how they sound. I picked players who I knew would naturally strengthen the feel I was going for. To that end, I couldn't do any better than Tal Bergman on drums. He's from Billy Idol and Joe Bonamassa. He's got the best pocket of any drummer I've ever played with, and I'm thankful I have him on the album. And so The same thing can be said for Dan McNay, who played bass. He's from Jack Russell's Great White in Montrose, and we played together for the last 12 years on and off. So I picked those guys only because of how they sound. And when you listen to the records, again, I'm sure you'll see why.
Well, talk about the idea behind having more than one vocalist. Like you have three on this.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons is because I work with two of the singers, Keith England and Kara Turner. I work with them every Sunday when I play out here in Hermosa Beach. I had different styles on the different songs, and I was kind of thinking about using multiple singers for that. And then I also thought, well, since I'm calling the band the Mitch Perry Project, because it's all these songs I wrote and I've kind of put everything together and whatnot, since I'm calling it that, and I'm not really the front person, it almost made sense to me to have a couple of different front people and just make everyone, we're all part of the Mitch Perry group, and what it's really about is the music that we're doing. And to that end, we have three incredible singers to bring it to you now. And that's Keith, who played with Montrose. He'd also played with the Allman Brothers. Shelley, who's, toured on her own in Europe for the last few years and, was a session singer at Muscle Shoals Studios. And Kara, like I said, is an amazing vocalist who I work with locally here. And she just is such a great singer. We had to have her on the record. So we did.
Once all this chaos is over and you can tour again, are there definitely plans to take this on the road?
That was the whole point of this band in the first place. Even though I love the record and the songs, what this band is a live jam band. I mean, we can take a 3-minute song and turn it into a 40-minute odyssey, and we do it different every time. And that's what we do on our Sunday gigs. Now, I wanted to take that band and put it right out there on the Bonnaroos and the Mountain Jams, and let us go with Government Mule or the Allman Brothers or any. Well, not the Allman Brothers now, but you get the point. We do that jam stuff. Wanted to do it. That's why I wrote the songs that I did for this record. I put all sorts of what I call rabbit holes in them where we can escape into those jams. So even though you'll have the songs for listening and something to grab a hold of when you want to think of the band, really what we're going to do when we play live, it's going to be a whole nother trip when we play live. It'll include everything you like about those songs, but a whole lot more. And this is a band that can do it. That's how we play, and we do it naturally. And I'm just lucky to have the people around me that I do.
When you are able to tour, would it be a thing with all three vocalists going on tour as well, or would you have like Keith handle everything, even the female vocals, or how's that playing?
No, I mean, ultimately, if we can do it to the fullest extent, we'll have everything out there. Now, obviously, we have no idea how the touring environment's going to be when this is all starting to open up again. So we may have to do refined versions of shows. I don't know. I mean, obviously, until we've booked anything, it's all conjecture at this point.
Right. You mentioned writing. Did you handle the lyrics, or did you have the vocalist handle the lyrics?
No, I wrote everything.
Okay.
I mean, when I write a song, it's not a matter of, gee, I have this guitar riff. Can you turn it into a song? The song kind of comes to me. I hear, well, it's not the actual words. I hear the vowels. I hear, I can hear a Bon Scott or a Don Henley or a Rod Stewart or whoever it is, screaming something over what I'm playing. And I sit down, refine that, and then I show it to the singers, and we figure out who is right for it, and we go from there.
Having played with a huge wide range of artists throughout your career, like how have you adapted your style to fit like each artist?
Well, I'm not really adapting a style to fit any artist. Are you talking on the record
Yeah.
as far as for each singer?
Sorry,
Yeah,
I meant like.
man,
Sorry, I just
go
meant like
ahead.
throughout your career. Like, say when you play with Cher, did you have to do something different than when you're playing with a
Oh,
hard rock band or that kind of thing?
absolutely. You have to do that for every song you play in your career. You have to look at it and see what it calls for. Now, that's the way I do it. Someone like Ingve might not do it that way. He'll look at the song and he'll play, and it'll be Ingve playing on the song. Yeah, that's great too if you want to hear an Ingve. Um, but for me, I think it's more about kind of, you listen to the solo on Believe. There's nothing real guitar virtuos. There's no guitar virtuosity on it, but I'll tell you what, that's an absolutely hard solo to play because it's so naked and there's so little going on. You have to play every little nuance of that thing just perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the where you don't play, or even if it's something that's not fast, that's the hardest to pull off.
Well, yeah, because it's a lot more exposed. There's a
Yeah.
lot. If you have less notes, the amount of time in a second is still the same. So the less notes just create lots more space to expose what you're actually doing. So if it's not right in between the eyes, people have time to see or hear that. If you're playing 300 notes in that space, no one ever has a clue what's going on.
Well, you mentioned Ingve. Like, say for instance, when you stepped into Steeler, did they ask you to try to play in that style, or did they give you rein to do what you felt?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, of course that's what they wanted, and of course at the time I didn't come close, nor have I ever come close to sounding like Ingve. So I did what I could that would make the songs go over without people throwing stuff at us, and to that end, I guess we pulled it off all right because nothing ever came up on stage, and I never really heard people screaming his name. But I certainly can't play like Ingve. That's not my style, and I never really wanted to sound like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's just not what I want in my style. Having said that, I was fortunate enough to spend a night sitting down with Michael Schenker and Ingve and three guitars in our hands. And I can tell you without hesitation, Ingve is one of the greatest guitar players who ever walked this earth. Yeah, I don't know if I like the style of music so much, but as far as playing, he's brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. Of all the projects or artists that you've played with in your career, was there anyone that was particularly challenging to step into, or did everything just kind of work itself?
When I toured with John Payne's Asia, I mean, not one of those songs felt natural to me. I had to really work to make them sound comfortable.
As a lifelong Les Paul player, like, what separates a Les Paul for you from every other guitar out there?
The sound, the feel, and it's not a Les Paul; it's my Les Paul. And, you could replace my Les Paul with 1,000 other Les Pauls, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's funny because I've had 4 different people come to me through the last 4 or 5 years with exact replicas of my guitar. I mean, they look like they were built the same week. And none of them come close to being as good as the one that I own. And I bought this one that I use all the time. I bought it off the shelf in March of 1978 when it was brand new. Yeah, there's just good luck there.
Yeah. Well, it's all in the fingers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I've ever gotten in my career from being fortunate enough to play with all these great players. I was playing with Michael Schenker, and I really, up until that time, I'd always gone, man, I'm still searching for the sound I want. I gotta find that magic amp. I gotta find that magic guitar. And then one day I played Michael's guitar through his rig and realized his rig wasn't why it sounded the way it does. His hands and his playing is the reason it sounds that way. And at that point, I stopped looking for the holy grail of the magic amp and just tried to make every note I hit with the guitar sound right. And, obviously you have to have the knobs somewhere in the right direction. But once they're in that ballpark, I mean, everything is down to your fingers. And it comes from inside you. Eddie Van Halen's going to sound like Eddie Van Halen, whether he's playing on stage or on a practice amp in your room.
That's right. Yeah, I heard an interview with Steve Thompson, who produced Appetite for Destruction, where he said that he's had several bands ask him to sound like Slash did on Appetite. And he said it doesn't matter if everything's exactly the same, you're not going to sound like that. So.
Yeah, it's what you got to imagine how you want to sound in your head and then not stop until you start to capture that.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Well, my pleasure, man. I appreciate the support. Please let everyone know where they can hear this record. You can go to iTunes and get it, at least a single now within the next 10 days. The rest of it will be out. It's also, if you want to go see it right away, you can go to YouTube. Look for Mitch Perry Group on YouTube. Put in Believe, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel while you're there. And, get on iTunes when it's out, and please order it. You won't be disappointed.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get this up here in the next
week
or so.
I got to ask you, which was your favorite song off of the album?
Wasted Time.
Oh, wow. Awesome. That is I'm glad. I was curious how some of the rock people would respond to that track, because I go, if I was gonna try and figure out what that track is, I go, it sounds like the Eagles met Pink Floyd.
Wow, that's a good way to put it. I didn't even think about that. I just had this real soulful bluesiness to it that I loved.
Well, man, thank you for saying. You put a smile on my face by picking that one.
There you go, Mitch Perry. A huge thank you to Jody Best of Best Bet Promotions for her continued support of this podcast.
Definitely couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, and of course, a massive thank you to Mitch Perry for taking some time out to talk to us there. That was very cool. Like you said, we talked about a lot of different topics, so it was cool to talk to him, a legendary guitarist who, as you know from that interview, now has the Mitch Perry Group, which is a great and amazing collection of musicians. So can't wait till things pick back up in the future. Hopefully that when they do some touring, they get within our area so we can check this out.
Right.
Some great bluesy / just like he said, just classic rock for modern times.
Yeah. Which I love that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We could see into the episode, but I mean, I could go on about that right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to do if you do it and it sounds modern. It doesn't even have to sound modern at times, because you've got a whole fan base of people that don't even listen to newer stuff.
Right. Well, the other day, or was it last week, and it doesn't matter. You and I were talking about it out in your patio about, if I think we were talking about like the later Kiss records, like Monster, Sonic Boom.
Oh, right.
If a band's going to do it that is at that level and been around that long, if they're doing it this well or that well or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that, but the classic rock for today thing, I like that idea.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for Music Box from the Mitch Perry Group. All right. If this is your first time listening, we definitely appreciate it. We've had on tons of people now. You've got 260 previous episodes you could dig through and just look at the list. But speaking, you just mentioned Kiss. We've had on Gene Simmons. We've had on Bruce Kulick. who has also been in Grand Funk Railroad now for 20 years.
Right.
Go
ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, speaking of classic rock, current members of Thin Lizzy, Ricky Warwick and
Yes.
Damon Johnson. And, of course, Damon Johnson of Brother Kane, and now his solo work has been on here again as well.
Yes. And we just had, if you're a Kiss fan, we just had on Florida Frank of Hatebreed.
Yeah.
And he's a mega Kiss fan, and we got into all that,
Yeah.
But we've also had on, guys like Kenny Hickey from Typo Negative, Alan Robert from Life of Agony, Trevor Church from Haunt. We had Brian Tichy on to talk about Rush and Neil Peart not too long ago.
That was very cool.
So, there's a lot of different ways it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of Brian's old bandmate, Pride and Glory, James Lomenzo, who plays with John Fogerty these days.
Right.
And was also in Black Label Society and Megadeth was on here. Dave Elfson from Megadeth, Chris Broderick, formerly of Megadeth. Speaking of classic rock, guys from Tesla, Warrant, Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, all that great stuff. So just dig through there. You'll find something. I guarantee you, if this is your first time listening, if you look through our list, there'll be some artists that you like.
Yes.
So check that episode out. It's all at soundcloud.com/Thunder-Underground. You can also listen on Apple Music, Google Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Mixcloud. Just go to Google, type it in, it comes up. I know, I've tried, so it works. You'll usually, if you just type Thunder Underground, you'll get Ozzy first and then us. But if you type in Thunder Underground Podcast, we're right there.
Right there.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of the internet, get on all those social medias and follow us if you're not. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you click like, you don't even have to share sometimes. You just click like or throw in a comment or a review or something. That helps us out big time. You can also get on YouTube and subscribe to us. We've got a lot of stuff on there that's not on the podcast as well. We'll have a couple more album reviews, I think, coming in the next couple weeks on YouTube. So be on the lookout for that. And earlier on, before the Mitch Perry interview, I mentioned Shadows Fall randomly, and that's because they're on our mind. Why is that?
Because coming up, we've got Brian Fair, vocalist for Shadows Fall. We just wrapped up an interview with him a little bit ago, and you look for that in the next week or two.
Absolutely. And then we've also got Thomas McRocklin coming up.
Yes.
Just like Mitch Perry, an otherworldly guitarist.
Of course.
And then we've got Dakota Shawn, the vocalist for Another Day Dawns, coming up. And then we've got, is that everything? And then, of course, coming later this week, we've got Space Brain from Torpedo Head.
Right.
And then we've got a couple more scheduled this week that we'll let you know once they happen.
Of course.
But all right, once again, huge thank you to MedFarm, DEB Concerts, Best Bet Promotions, and, of course, Mitch Perry. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.